Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Non-Profit Podcast. I'm Cherry Chen, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this journey. This podcast dives into the real world of nonprofit leadership, sharing inspiring stories, experiences, and the truth about what it takes to operate a nonprofit successfully. Think of this as your mastermind session on the go. Now, without further ado, please welcome today's nonprofit leader. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Unfiltered Non-Profit. Today I have a very special guest because he has my favorite last name on earth, and Jean-François Champagne from the Automotive Industry Association. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so JF, I want to get to know a little bit about your background and how you landed in this nonprofit sector years ago.
Absolutely. So many of us, I think, in the association space kind of got into it almost by accident.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I worked in an industry, the electronic security industry.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get involved. And so I found myself just as a volunteer working for the association, quickly became one of their instructors for some of the educational programs. To a point where people said, Jeff, you need to quit your job. You need to come and work for the association full time. And that's what I did. There was an opening to lead their educational and training programs.
Yeah.
And I did that. And very rapidly, people said, I think you're going to like that sector. And you really should pursue professional education in the space of association management. I was introduced early to CSAE.
Yep.
Right away was intrigued to network with people that had that interest in the non-for-profit sector, was very much motivated to pursue my CAE, which I obtained. And after that, became sort of that graduate from the CAE program and got into the executive director role. And so I had to lead my first association that way. And often people say, should an executive director be recruited from the industry that is going to represent, or should it come from association management background? And so in that first iteration of my career, well, I came from that industry, got my CAE, got the education, and got into the big seat. But then after that, got recruited, approached to relocate from Toronto at the time to Ottawa, cool. Where the Automotive Automotive Industries Association is based. And so I joined AIA in 2015 and moved to Ottawa. And in that particular case, I had to learn a new industry. So I came obviously with the background of leading an association, but had to, as I always like to say, you got to learn about 1,000 acronyms and meet 1,000 people and find your home into this new industry. So that's been my journey. And along that path, also continue to be very engaged with CSE. So I am currently sitting on the board of CSE. I'm the incoming chair for the association this coming October. Yes, and this is great. We have the national conference in Ottawa, which is now my hometown. So looking forward to that as well.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. Yeah, so CSAE, the Canadian Society of Association Executives, has this program. I think it's called Certified Association Executives, that CAE program, which I'm also taking. I'm in the middle of it. Almost at the tail end of it, the final piece.
Don't give up.
It is way harder than I had expected. I've done other exams before for professional, professional license or programs in the past, and it was 10,000 times harder than my previous one, which I'm not going to mention. Not the CPA. The CPA one, I was in my prime year and in school and enrolled the exam. Very different. This CAE has a lot more, the CAE program has a lot more detailed and in-depth information that equip any students of the program to really manage an association, which I was so impressed by, to be honest. I don't know, somehow I was able to do all 4 courses in 8-month period, and I couldn't finish my last one. I'm working on it, I promise.
Well, I'll tell you what, it took me forever. I was never really good at school, and so while you're working, it's hard to pursue your CAE. It took me many years, but I have since encouraged a lot of people in my team to take the CAE. I lost count. I think I've got 6 CAEs maybe through my career who's worked with me, 3 of which today lead their own association, so graduated to become their own executive director. And it's probably one of the one of the achievement I'm most proud of is enabling people to pursue the CAE and become their own executive director. And I think it's something that association leader needs to invest in for their own teams.
So I have another guest. I had another guest on our show, and her name's Krista. She talked about how she only had a high school education, and with the CAE designation that she got, she was able to eventually rise up to the executive director's role. So it really this CAE program really opens the door to people who are in the nonprofit sector. To
Absolutely.
leadership role.
Absolutely. I went to university, never graduated, and so for me, the CAE was right ready to complement previous education I had. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those ones like Bill Gates and.
So I did, science in college. Back in Quebec, and then I went to engineering school, but actually did not complete. And so I left Polytechnique and went on to different things. And so I never really, had a chance to complete my university degree. But CAE really provided me the applied skills that was needed for leading association effectively.
That's awesome. Now, from there, you became the Automotive Industry Association's leader, and you've been in this role for a long time. Tell me what's the biggest failure, or we shouldn't say failure. We use positive word here. Let's use setback that you have.
Wow. So yeah, I've been with the association now almost 9 years. So maybe the best example I could share with your audience. We were approached at one point by a group of members, influential members, organizations.
Yeah.
Who felt there was a need to raise the bar in terms of certification qualifications of people in the automotive space, specific to collision.
Yep.
And so they said, we really need to have the association launch that certification program. We'll endorse it, promote it. But they all have themselves constituents, stakeholders. They had to also motivate and engage in order for them to join a program. So we built a program, marketing, trademark. It included requirements for education, business processes, and tools. You're fixing cars.
Yeah.
And so we did all that, launched the program, and it was really, really hard to get the individual repair shop locations to actually pursue that program. And at the time, one thing we did not really understand well and failed to really explore and analyze pre-launch was there was also other organization, for-profit organization, namely car manufacturers, who were also launching their similar programs. And so where we're trying to raise the bar and simplify the capacity of shops to get certified, we actually found ourselves in competition with for-profit entities that were in a much better positions to influence their customers.
Yeah.
And so we struggled and then really found ourselves not in a positions to get the program to grow. And the very constituents that approached us early on found themselves also struggling and eventually having to side with various automakers to adopt their programs as opposed to ours.
Wow.
And so after 3-4 years, we took the right decision and said, we're going to fold the program. So as opposed to, sometimes in association we have a tendency to start programs and not winding down. We said, you know what? The genesis of that program was to reduce the complexity in the marketplace. And all we're doing right now is to make it more complex. And so we're failing in our core goal. And so we folded the program. Lesson learned, you really have to do your homework. Do market analysis. And even though you have core constituents that say, we'll support you, when it comes time to actually deploy, are they going to come through or not? And I think we have done a bit of analysis from the market. We would have learned that we were going to face uphill battle to make that program to work.
So is it possible, or is it okay to ask that how much investment you have put into this program?
Multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars were invested in the program, lots of time, resources, energy from staff. We also, and maybe it's more complex, but the result of that too is we found ourselves in competition with automakers. And so that created also some friction that we still live with today.
Oh, wow.
So, there are always repercussion to that, these kind of programs. And if you're not successful, you're creating friction along the way and spending money, resources, and time. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you and your team or the board felt at the time?
Well, we came to a logical decision at the end. This was, we have to remove the emotion. How can we have spent all that money, resources, and time? And so maybe we should double down. And I think you come to a point where you look at the data, you look at the landscape, and you got to make an informed decision and say, no, you know what? The logical decision now is that we thought originally this was going to make sense. We made some assumptions that proved to be wrong, recognize those were wrong, and just say this is the next step we need to take and follow this program. Because the worst take that you could have is, we can't fail. Let's put more money and resources. And you're just spending more resources and time but it's a logical approach you have to take.
It's not, I think it's not a unique situation for just nonprofit. Yes, for nonprofit, it's program driven, but for also entrepreneurs like me, I've seen people in the marketplace like holding on, in my other business, holding on properties forever. And I don't want to. I see it going back up in price. I don't want to cut losses. Having the understanding of, we call it sunk cost, essentially. Recognizing that sunk cost is very important. Having the ability to recognize it and willing to admit it.
Absolutely. Put pride aside, and the emotions got to be removed from that decision for sure. And I think for-profit businesses will more see the balance sheet is going to tell you a story. You're really trying to achieve that positive bottom line more so than in a not-for-profit business. So we got to be very cautious in association. Say, let's make sure that our programs bring values, are financially sound. Because if it's not, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Unfiltered Non-Profit listeners. It's Cherry Chan here, your host and the CEO of Otis Financial Solutions. Let's talk about something that can be a major headache for many nonprofits: managing your finances. Are you feeling overwhelmed by budgeting, financial reports, or keeping up with compliance? You're not alone. Many nonprofit leaders struggle with these issues too, but you don't have to. At Otis Financial Solutions, we specialize in making financial management easy for nonprofit leaders and associations leaders. For over 18 years, we've been turning financial stress into peace of mind. Our services are designed to meet your unique needs, from day-to-day bookkeeping to strategic financial planning. Imagine having more time to focus on your mission, knowing that your finances are in experts' hands. If that sounds like something you need, I'm offering a no-obligation 20-minute consultation. Let's discuss your challenges and explore how Otis can help you achieve your goals. Visit nonprofitcfo.ca to book your call today. Let's simplify your financial management together. So, pandemic.
Yes.
So, pandemic, a lot of associations, and I think we've done multiple interviews now for many of them have moved from like having a physical location to a hybrid arrangement to completely remote. And I have clients who have employees who are mixed bags, essentially. Some prefer to stay in the office, some prefer to work from home, I have another client who has an office space and essentially nobody's coming in, and find himself like being the only one in the office every other week, just collecting mails.
Yes.
So what have you guys done at AIA?
I often talk about the importance of technology in driving association success.
Yep.
So what that means is that AIA Canada, we're already in a virtual world where we're already allowing some bit of flex work, where we're using Zoom, virtualized servers. So we had all the tools in place. When the pandemic hit, we were able to pivot. So we have about 30 employees, send everybody home, and while it wasn't perfect, we're able to essentially transition from an in-office, in-person type of structure to a virtual environment fairly easy. It gave us really our capacity to provide direct value to our members because we're not stuck trying to transition from servers, infrastructures to a virtual environment. We just did that pivot very, very quickly, provide huge value. And that talks about the importance to be a bit ahead always of the technological changes, because if you're not, when these things happen, then you're really struggling.
Yep.
But my observations early on in the pandemic was, wow, we're now sitting at home, efficient, productive. And for each day that goes on, we're going to increasingly find it difficult to bring people back. And it's funny, I think earlier I talked about hockey. This is going to be 3 periods of 3 months. And then we said, no, it's going to be like more baseball. It's going to be like 9 innings because it just dragged on. And so I remember and I think through the first wave, we're a group of CEOs, executive director together. And we're like, oh, what's your return to the office protocol? Well, we're going to try to do 1 day a week or 2 days. And I'm the last one at the end. And I said, they're not coming back. The ship has sailed. You have now given the opportunity people to demonstrate they could be productive from home. We're not going to be able to bring them back to offices. We never went back. We eventually got rid of our office, moved to a virtual environment, and we're being able, as a result of that, to really attract and retain quality staff, I believe. Now, this is not all people say, wow, Jeff, the culture and, the water cooler conversation.
Exactly. That's my follow-up question. Like, you got 30 employees. I would say for a lot of associations out there, it's a decent-sized organization. So how do you keep 30 employees all engaged and accountable? And you mentioned efficiently doing the work efficiently and effectively earlier on. So how do you keep them, one, accountable to do what they're supposed to do, and two, to keep them engaged and have that culture?
Sure. We were in the office getting together every Thursday at 10 a.m. To this day. And I'll be at a conference, I'll be at an event, and I'll say, I don't care. If it's Thursday at 10 a.m., I will step outside, turn on my phone, and we're all getting together into a team or Zoom call. And I said, everyone, I want to see every single camera turned on, and everyone being able to engage and participate in group conversation. It could be about what's going on in the office. It could be a program launch. It could be someone coming back and introductions to a new staff person. So that's a critical piece. We didn't have to have everyone come together at least once every quarter. And we do that. Different places. Sometimes it's for fun. Sometimes it's maybe a bit of work. Sometimes a bit of both. It often includes a lot of food and a way for people to tell their stories, right? So the last word is an example. They say, we always want to give the last word to someone on the team because not everyone has the opportunity to engage directly. So someone in coordinator role maybe have, hey, I'll talk to you about my dog, my cat, my hobbies. And so we do that. And it's not easy. You need to have discipline and making sure you give the people together. And we as association have events. Make sure you take your staff to all these events. So where normally you would bring, 5, 6 key staff to an event, bring 12, bring 15. There's all those additional costs. But you're not renting an office anymore. And so those cost savings could go towards exposing more of your staff to both your audiences, stakeholders, members, as well as getting together. And then this is how you build those relationships with your staff. So those are the things we've been doing that seem to working pretty good.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I know you also have like a great way to retain talent because you truly believe in diversity. You're on your own.
Yes. So on the whole DEI, we've seen a lot of different perspective. I think we saw the pendulum swing one way. I think it's coming back a little bit. But my observation has always been is that DEI is not a written strategy on a piece of paper. It's not a poster you're going to hang on the wall. It's something you're going to live through. That's something you have to believe in and be able to communicate in a way that's genuine. I've come from an environment that welcomed and encouraged diversity, and I think it made it easy for me to create that environment. We didn't create a diverse workforce with a plan. I think it happened organically because you enable people to feel comfortable and safe in your working space. I'm very proud to talk about always Ipti Rita. She's our VP of Finance and Operation. Got her CPA. She recently got her CAE. She was in fact on stage at the National Conference in Montreal.
Awesome.
She's a practicing Muslim. She's my second in command, and she's a wonderful performing individual. But we don't see it through that lens. We just see because she's Ipti and she's part of the team.
Yep.
But you also created an environment in which other practicing Muslim, which is on our own team, says, you know what? We feel that AIA Canada is a place where there are no glass ceiling.
Yep.
We see people in leadership role being given the opportunity to grow. And this is not, again, part of a plan or part of a strategy. It's such something that you believe in, that you make it happen, that provide that opportunity. I could talk about another recruitment we did for a role in government relations, vice president of government relations. And in the first interview, it's like, well, Jeff, what's your work-life balance? I'm a mother of kids, and I've got some dynamics. And people often will say, wow, I'm not sure it's the kind of person I want to recruit in my team, because here's someone coming at us talking about, I want a flexibility in the workplace. And we do provide that environment. And we've had high performing people joining the team because they get the job done. And that's how I think you're less concerned about monitoring performance, because if you provide the right environment, people will perform. And if you get someone who's going to underperform, whether they're sitting at a desk in a cubicle or at home, they're going to underperform regardless. So you could apply, and measure people in performance for sure, but create an environment that is safe and flexible for people.
Yeah, my office is also on a hybrid arrangement. So if you, on Monday to Thursday, if you go to my office, there's like 2-3 people in the office. And on Friday, we always get together every Friday, and everyone is asked to come in on Friday. And a lot of them do, because they actually do enjoy dressing up and getting out of the house as well. As you know, if you work from home, the number of steps that you get, if you don't choose not to leave your desk, is like a couple hundred steps a day. So all these initiatives are really learning opportunities for me as well to connect with my team a little bit better. Yeah. So JF, I am going to ask you one last question as well, before I want to be respectful of your time as well. It's about advocacy work.
Yes.
So I know we said that we might not do this, but I wanted to ask, a lot of our clients in the nonprofit sector, associations specifically, they represent the industry that they represent, and part of the role of the association, according to my CAE program, is to do some advocacy work and lobbying with the government to set things up right. And what kind of advocacy work have you done in your capacity, and what's your take on this whole advocacy work?
Yes. Well, I'd love to encourage everyone who has not yet read the op-ed by Pierre Poilievre, who essentially says you need to fire your lobbyist. Many of us have read it, but if you haven't, just look it up. Because it did create a bit of a shockwave within the world of government relations and advocacy. For sure, if you're in Ottawa, you've heard about it. But it really talks about the approach of making sure that when we do advocacy government relations, it really starts from a grassroots movement. It's not just about professional lobbyists or government relations specialists engaging policymakers, politicians, people within government, but it's more about also making sure that the stories of the people you represent shine through. This is not just about their needs and wants driven by an association. Those are the needs and wants of people, real people, living in real places across Canada, voicing some concerns about over-regulations or under-regulations, the need to change some structures in our country is really what you need to do. Now, for AIA Canada, our biggest file has been, for the longest time, is the pursuit of getting legislation on right to repair, making sure that consumers have the right to choose where they go to get their car fixed. Simply that. And so we've had no legislation in this country forever, and just this past December, in the province of Quebec, for the first time in Canada, we got legislation adopted. Huge victory for our association. And people say, how do you get there? How do you do this? And there are no easy solution, but it starts with grassroots. It starts with having all of these point of contact within government, opposition parties. It's listening to what the government is responding to. Government says, we're doing a consultation that it might not directly address your needs and wants, but it's important to the government. And so it's a two-way street. Oh, you're asking an opinion, let's us respond. Make budget submissions. Talk about your key issues. And comes a time where the government is going to ask questions that are aligned with your wants and asks. In this particular case, the province of Quebec was looking at the obsolescence of product, which led to the repairability of goods. It led to right to repair. It led to automotive specific requirements for right to repair, which was basically what we wanted to do. But you can't just come in at the last minute and make that happen. It's because you've been part of the conversations for a long time, including your constituents, your stakeholders, your members, to convey that message that could make for successful advocacy efforts.
So how long are we talking about? How many years?
Well, I've been there 9. They have had attempt in 2009. So, if you go back, is it 15, 20 years?
Wow.
But, the recent efforts is very much about 6, 7 years where we really have a concerted efforts on the front of right to repair. Just shortly after I came in, we started to really implement strategies, engaging a government relations firm, having staff focused on these issues. So it's resources, time, and patience.
So how you mentioned engaging a government relations firm and putting the resources into doing the advocacy work. So sometimes I'm a number person. So I'm going to ask this question. Like if I look at the number as an expense, on the income statement, and you see it, hey, there's an expense, and well, it's been 15 years that there's nothing happening. Yes. So how do you as an organization still decide to continue with the relationship or the investment per se?
Sure.
And it's so easy for us, or for me in particular, it's not showing result.
Right. So I think one of the approach that we've used, which has worked well from an accounting financial perspective, is we've set dedicated reserved fund. And so if you are, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the numbers, is you want to make sure your P&L, on an operating perspective, is not fully impacted by your activities on government relations. Because to your point, really rapidly you're going to go, this is really driving either deficits or very, very hard to justify. Suddenly some other program starts to suffer because of your government relations activities. So ultimately it comes out of the same bank account, but the fact that you set a restricted fund allows the board over time, every 2 years, every 3 years, to have that conversation instead of having that every budget year. Say, we know this is long-term investment. We want our investments to carry through fiscal years, and that dedicated reserve fund will live on your balance sheet. And so you're able to have a more long view of what you're trying to do. So it's one of the approach we've used, and I think we've worked fairly well for our organization.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gia, for coming on to our show. It's really a pleasure to be able to interview you. I know you're a big supporter of CSAE and also a big supporter of Otis as well. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
No, thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. As we wrap up, I want to share a bit more about what we do at Otis Financial Solutions. For the past 18 years, Otis Financial Solutions has been dedicated to enhancing the financial management and strategic planning capabilities of hundreds of associations and nonprofits across Canada. Our extensive experience has enabled us to deliver tailored financial solutions that drive growth and enhance sustainability for nonprofits and associations. If you are interested in learning more about how Otis Financial Solutions can support your organization, I would love to offer you a no-obligation 20-minute call. Let's discuss your unique challenges and explore how we would be able to help you achieve your goals.